Yep.
Good afternoon, councillors. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of Snorri Valleys Council, 16th of April. Welcome. I just start with the acknowledgement of country. Snorri Valleys Council proudly acknowledges the traditional owners and custodians of this land and water and pay respects to their elders past and present. The meeting today is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snorri Valleys Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors are reminded of the oath or affirmation of office they made under Section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993 and the obligations of the Council's Code of Conduct to disclose an appropriately managed conflict of interest. Please ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or on silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice images is permitted by mobile phones or other electronic devices while in the room. In the event of emergency, please evacuate the building using the nearest exit and following the instructions by a warden. Do not use the lift. Now, apologies and leave of absence. We have one request for leave of absence from Councillor Hugh Packard for the next meeting on the 21st of May. Do I have Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sheldon? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. I don't think we have any today. Thank you. Now, 5.1, confirmation of minutes from the 19th of March. Do I have the mover? Councillor Sheldon, seconded by Councillor Larder. Councillor Sheldon?
Yeah, look, I think there's only one problem. It was extended by a lot more than 15 minutes. But the presentation was, it says here, the presentation was extended by 15 minutes. It was closer to an hour, that presentation.
No, the questions and answers.
Yeah.
So I think my point is that the presentation was extended, but the Q&A was our problem.
Right.
Okay, so all in favour of confirmation of minutes? All in favour? Thank you. No correspondence or petitions. Mayoral minutes. Just got a couple of verbal things to say is, first of all, congratulations to everyone involved in the Snorri, the CUC Snorri Valleys. Great opening yesterday. Congratulations to the chairperson, Hugh Packard, but also congratulations to the many people who have been involved for a long, long time. It was a great celebration and great to have something that was so positive in education in our area. So that was a big plus. Always good to have our Minister McBain here and our local member, Michael McCormack. There was also a equine evacuation centre opened in Humbarumba the day before, and that was also a great celebration. And if you're over there, it's at the racecourse, I recommend you just have a look at the expanse of it and what they've done. Very impressive. Councillors, just to let you know that we're putting in a submission to the Victorian Government about the Walworth fires and our cross-border concerns that happened during the fires. So it will be sent around to you maybe later this afternoon or tomorrow if you could read if there's anything, and then it has to be submitted by Sunday. So sorry, don't have more time there. I'd like to congratulate Councillor Hayes for being a board member on Scotland by the Sea. Congratulations. And finally, on Monday, Councillor Hayes, Councillor Packard and I are meeting with Minister Tara Cheng in Canberra to discuss the Brindabella Road and the $37 million we're spending on this side. And just pointing out that if the ACT would like to do a similar thing on their side, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. And now to 7.1, a mayoral minute about aged care. I've got 7 recommendations there. Number 5 said write to the relevant minister, which is Sam Ray. I'm actually going to hand over to the General Manager to explain what happened in the Royal Commission and why the 9 councillors are here, why we are now all responsible people for aged care, which is something we did not understand at the time.
Can I just seek clarification. Is it just about the aged care services, or is it about all of the services provided through the outlet? And that would include NDIS funding as well. So whether or not it relates specifically to aged care services or aged care and support services, which we,
And I think that's a really good question because we're the responsible people and we
That's
do
right.
not understand.
so I think just having it to aged care services probably leaves out a whole chunk of what we are also responsible for.
Women.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council, as a result of the Aged Care Royal Commission, certain changes were made to the Aged Care Act 2024. One of those that will impact councillors is that councillors are now considered as members of a group responsible for executive decisions of the entity at that time. So essentially what they're saying, if you're responsible for a function of a business that carries out aged care related services, you are now considered a responsible person. But as you know, local government is quite different to other areas of sort of business in that area. LG New South Wales has been campaigning on behalf of its members, and they have been advised that further information and like some guidance will be provided to local government on this matter, but that was last year. So we haven't received any update as of, I think it was like about the middle of last year. So so just reinforcing what the Mayor said, I think it is a concern for not only this council, but for councils across New South Wales that are responsible for age-related services.
It's actually all throughout Australia. It's not just New South Wales. It's everywhere with local.
And to Councillor Thompson's question, can you tell us what our aged care, is it community transport as well?
So council offers various aged care services. We have a over 55s home located in Tumbarumba. We also provide aged care services through like domestic home care packages and support for people that need assistance, and we also provide community transport across the LGA as well.
Councillor Packard.
Do we provide NDIS support? As often those ones do have bits of that coming there.
Yes, that's through the
That's not
through the
aged
home
care.
care support.
Yeah.
Through my aged care. Yeah.
So the way it works is we're responsible because we're basically the board of directors.
Yes.
But we don't know what's going on because that's all operational. So we don't know what we're responsible for.
My understanding is a responsible person though, if something goes majorly wrong,
Yeah,
we're the ones in court.
That's correct.
We're meant to know.
Yeah, so
Well-
so just to respond to that, what we were planning is to do sort of just reports to council, just to let councillors know what's been happening in that space. Has there been any incidences? What training is occurring? And we plan on doing that on like a 6 monthly basis to help councillors in that area. But it is quite unusual, just given like the different like dynamics in local government.
Councillor Larter.
Just given that's the case, I mean, normally if you're on a board, you would have the insurance for directors for those sorts of events. Where do we sit in relation to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's something I'll need to find out.
Maybe that could be a point.
Yeah, we'll put that in as an amendment. Point 8, if we could, Jeannie,
Fine, it's an addition, doesn't it?
in addition. Research insurance for directors, for councillors. Councillors or council,
Obligation.
one and the same.
My understanding is that councillors would be covered, but I'll just obviously triple check.
Council or councillors?
Council, including council.
Yeah, council is council. The plural.
Including council.
Covered within reason.
Mm.
Something drastically goes wrong.
Yeah, so worst case, like a client
Negligent.
passes away,
Yeah.
that,
Through neglect.
yeah, through neglect, that's,
Insurance won't cover that.
We're very vulnerable.
Insurance will cover you for any act done in good faith.
Yeah,
Good faith.
I think the difference is that they want the people responsible to have a skill set and a knowledge of what's going on. That was the thrust of the Royal Commission. So that even though it's done in good faith, if we don't have the prerequisite sort of either qualifications or skill to be making those good faith decisions.
And that's why I've brought the report back,
Yeah.
because in good faith, I know nothing. And that was, you know, what we were, as councillors, we're to know nothing. Suddenly we are.
It's a little bit crazy because we also don't know the dynamics of how the waste system works or the mechanics of the trucks. So it's now asking us to have an expertise that no elected representative should be expected to have at that level of detail.
Councillor Lada.
Would it be possible to find out whether we're able to outsource the responsibility of that to a third party? So say, for instance, say Uniting or someone that deals with this stuff as their core business, you know, is it possible
To ask for a report into that?
leave her onto them?
Yeah.
Expressions of interest and say, we're looking for.
So essentially is what you're asking for, like a service review to see if another provider.
I mean, because we may not necessarily be in our interest to get expertise in. We might be able to outsource it to someone that does it every day of the week, like Belmar with the, you know, NDIS. We might be able to give it to someone else to manage.
Did we have a consultant do this report? Probably back in 5 or 6 years ago?
That was just in relation to the over 55s.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah, my experience would be to undertake a whole service review, but I'm not sure if
Yeah.
council wants to do that at the moment, but yeah, that's a decision for council.
Madam Mayor, this is like when you start opening up the Pandora's box and everything starts coming out, because the issues surrounding all of this, if we start talking about that, is that we're also impacting on staff and employment and service provision and the community of Tumbarumba, because they are the ones who specifically are connected with these services through
Not
Snowy Valleys
entirely.
Council,
Mm.
predominantly, except for probably community transport. So we need to be really, really careful that we don't set a fear amongst the community that they're going to be abandoned in relation to, or particularly for our staff. We have a significant number of staff in this area. You know, I think we're best to get a further report past this, but to be careful not to set cat amongst the pigeons and give an indication that we might be looking at just getting rid of it.
Certainly an area that needs to be researched more. So
Just a
the
question.
General Manager, would you suggest a report? Have we got the capacity to do that?
I think we could bring a report back to council outlining the process, because obviously there would be, like some budget implications and things like that, because we wouldn't have the capacity to do that service review in-house. That would need to be outsourced and things like that. But at this stage, I think a report to council would be okay, if that's what council wishes.
Shall we put that as point 9?
Andrew's.
Have a follow-up
I just-
report. I'm sorry, Councillor.
No, that's okay. It was just a question regarding the service review and the implications of, could you have a service review and obviously Councillor Thompson's comments in regards to Tumbarumba and the staff who are involved in the aged care up there. This would probably be best left with the new Tumbarumba Council to decide.
I think that needs to go into the report though.
Yes, but I was just saying, could the service review be implemented now so that the new council could make a decision on that review?
Included in the.
I think when it comes to anything, when it, talking about the amalgamation, it's a fine line, isn't it? Because we can't make a decision for a new council.
Mm.
Everything's got to be an interim decision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just meant in terms of a report,
Oh, so you've got it all there ready
a
for them to
review.
vote on it.
Here's all the
Yeah.
information. You can make the decision.
Yeah, no. So we're saying that, so receive a report on aged care governance.
Received a report on conducting a aged care.
Operation.
Is it a review?
Received a report on conducting an aged
Because it's
care service review.
That scope's
And-
broad enough to be able to,
But aren't we worried about the governance of it, really?
But I think councillor Lada's point was to undertake a review
Oh,
of the
okay. So there's-
service to see a,
Oh, so that's all we need to say. Receive a
'cause there-
report on conducting an aged care
Yeah.
service review, full stop.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'll come back with a report saying this is how much it's going to cost to do the review. These are some people we could use. And then this is the scope of the review is essentially what will be in the report.
Great, okay. Thank you. Okay, I've moved that. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. And just one final thing is, councillors, we have appointed Nicole Jenkins as the Chief Transition Officer. And one of her first things she's going to be working on is the communications plans about what she is doing and how the de-amalgamation is coming along. She's going to have a plan to tell us how we're going to communicate that to the general public. And while we're welcoming people, we will say one more time, farewell, Duncan Minshall, our Director of Infrastructure, and may you have a very good time in Orange.
Take your puffer jacket.
yeah, you'll get,
Take a tuck of jacket.
you'll be sorry.
And yesterday we had such a privilege showing Christy McBain, the aerodrome and the MEC, and it just must be good. Leave on a high. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 8, no notions of motions of rescission, urgent business without notice, no. 10.1, council resolutions action report, April 2026. Councillor Sheldon,
Oh,
seconded by
that-
councillor Packard.
my pet hate, the Adelong Showground Committee.
Straight into it. Okay. Councillor Sheldon.
Councillor Sheldon, there'll be a meeting if you'd like to come along. Would you like to do that?
I just like it off the list.
Oh,
I think we're doing that.
Yes, so I can answer that. So my understanding is council has reached out to the members of the Adelong Showground Committee requesting a meeting to discuss their concerns. I think they wanted to get through the Adelong show and I think that meeting will be in the near future.
Can I just seek a clarification? It was Adlong who requested that
Yeah.
they be given the, okay.
Yeah.
So can I ask why or what their concerns are? Are you aware, councillor Hayes, what the concerns are
Look,
that are
I
holding
thought,
it
I
up?
think they looked through the
It's
basic-
an agreement?
basic agreement and we're unhappy with that.
If I could speak to 11.2 on the capital works program for roads with Humlink project, I'm getting a number of complaints. I'm seeing it myself, lots of concrete trucks on roads that I'm just a bit surprised they're on. Is there a way that we can look up to find out if vehicles are on the right road? If there's a complaint, who do we ring? If we take a photo of a license plate, where do we send it to? To you, Director of Infrastructure.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, the Humlink roads that they're to use are defined clearly in the road maintenance agreement, but that doesn't mean that from time to time, drivers don't know that and drivers are driving on roads that they're unfamiliar with. The Humlink vehicles are what we call geofenced. So each one has a GPS tracker. And if people can report to us, first of all, which we're happy to do, the vehicle description and license plate number, we then take that to Humlink and they can confirm through the GPS tracking systems on their vehicles whether it had been travelling on that road, which is what we call an unauthorised road, or they haven't, it's someone else and there's a mistake. So it can be tracked very accurately and very clearly. And I will say we are aware of some instances where drivers are using roads they're not meant to, and that's just because they're simply new drivers in the areas and they haven't been properly briefed.
And also what I'm getting complaints about is, okay, we understand that about HumeLink vehicles, it's the contractors. So same with them,
It's the same. Any contractor used by HumeLink, if it's a heavy vehicle, not a light vehicle, this only really applies to heavy vehicles. We can't restrict the roads that their light vehicles travel on, but the heavy vehicles are definitely restricted to the roads that are in the agreement. And any contractor that is associated with HumeLink that uses a heavy vehicle has to use those authorised roads.
thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I just seek some lenience in what I'd like to ask in relation to that? It's unfortunate that it's now not only about the HumeLink project vehicles. There are many vehicles using roads that they are not supposed to be using, the size of the vehicles. Is there any way that as a local government area, we can look into that? How do people report it? Who do they report it to? I'm getting emails and photos from people raising concerns about the wrong vehicles on the roads and the speed of some of those vehicles. And people don't know how they report it or who they report it to. They don't know who, general public doesn't know who's responsible for what roads. That's why council gets told about everything.
So through you, Madam Mayor, there's also what we call the National Heavy Vehicle Registration Service. And all heavy vehicles that use our roads for projects or in any event have to submit an application through us to use that road. Now, these are for roads that are not in the HumeLink agreement. So these are all other heavy vehicle road users, effectively. And that application is reviewed by council because we have to review it in terms of things like you've just read, the road's capacity to actually take that vehicle, the condition of the road, and is that the best road that vehicle should be using. So these applications, which we charge for and we assess, go back then to the heavy vehicle company, driver, whoever it is that submitted it, and we either say, no, you can't use that route, this is the route you're to use, or you can use that route. And as I said, it can be routes outside of the HumeLink agreement. But you have to follow these conditions, and you have to be aware that it's narrow here, there's a bridge there, there's overhanging power lines here, there's those. So we make them all aware of that, and the speed limit is this. So that's all in the application that they get back, and they're meant to adhere to that conditions within that application.
What happens if they don't apply? I'll give you
If we
the,
have evidence of it, we can go back to them and either refuse future applications if they're breaching their conditions of the application, or report it to police if we've got proper evidence that they've been not adhering to the conditions of the application.
Okay.
And we can report that and say, guys, can you be aware that this particular truck, vehicle, driver, company does not adhere to their approved route?
because it's compounded with the HumeLink vehicles, and one of the issues that is now occurring in the Batlow area is the fact that with the fruit co-op not operating as much as it was, there are now people selling directly from the orchards, and a lot of those vehicles are Victorian vehicles that are just coming up and travelling on roads that they are not designated for. So it creates a whole bigger picture. So I shall let people know, but I think maybe there needs to be more follow-up.
If we get
Sorry.
evidence,
Yeah.
council, like photographs and things like that's very helpful, because we can either raise it directly with the contractor that you've breached your heavy vehicle route approval, or HumeLink if it's a HumeLink vehicle, or any other company or contractor. We can make them aware you shouldn't be travelling on this road.
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence, Madam Mayor.
That's fine. Anything else? Resolution report? All those in favour? Unanimous. 10.2, attendance to the Regions Rising Conference and Regional Futures Forum with Councillor Sheldon. Thank you for your report with photos. It is appreciated. Do you want to move that report, Councillor Sheldon? Seconded by Councillor Thompson. Councillor Sheldon, would you like to speak to it?
I just think that the forums like this and the one that the Regional Institute put on later on in the year are opportunities that people, you know, for us to stop looking within and look out and look at the opportunities that are out there for councils the size of Snowy Valleys. And once again, I recommend that we become a member of the Regional Institute because they've got so many things on their side and they tend to open the doors to a lot of places that this council needs to be open for.
Do you want to speak to what Bernard Salt said?
Yes, Bernard was actually shocked me because he spoke to the Murray particularly, and he raised about the future is regional, and Snowy Valleys unfortunately was one of 3 councils that was not seizing on all the opportunities that he could see present for regional Australia, or especially along the Murray-Darling, but he brought in Balranald and also the Edwards River. We're not seizing the opportunities that were available there.
Was he specific about what we weren't, not what we were missing?
Just in general, realised that he looked at the smaller populations, like he looked at our housing, he looked at a whole lot of things, how the demographic had changed from when what we regarded as original Australians, which were the Anglo-Saxons, and how our housing was done compared to how it was looked at now, and that young people, in particular, younger demographics, were moving to a lot of the other regions along the Murray-Darling, but he was highlighting a lot, and I think we've discussed this, he was highlighting a lot of industries that are taking off along those areas, the home-based industries, healthcare and nursing are growing fields along those areas, especially with the aged care and retirement villages.
It's good to have that thinking process to think about and looking strategically to the future. Thank you very much for attending.
Well, there was one thing he did mention, and of course it was at Charles Sturt in Wagga, is how the nursing faculty in Charles Sturt in Albury was going ahead, is bursting at the seams. People jumping to get into health.
As long as you're
Wagga's
vaccinated.
biggest employer.
As long as you've had 6 vaccines, you're right.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. That leads to the 2026 Local Government New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit in Sydney on the 7th of May, just to have the approval of Councillor Thompson and myself to attend. Moved by Councillor Packard, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Any comments? All those in favour? It is quite good that I will be presenting about the drought in our area and how we advocated in that area. So 10.4, draft integrated planning and reporting documents, including the budget for public exhibition. Can I have a mover? Councillor Thompson, seconded. Councillor Hardwick, Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, can I please move that we go into committee? I think that there's a lot to unravel in the documents that we have here, and if people need to discuss it, I don't think we need to be bound by.
I'm happy if we've got a seconder. Do you have a seconder?
No.
Go into committee? No, we'll continue as
Okay.
but,
Oh, did you put your hand up?
Yeah.
oh, you did. I beg your pardon. Councillor Sheldon, all those in favour? Was that your hand up, Councillor Hayes? Yep, all the unanimous. Okay, into committee it is. Go.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Can I just say this is one of the suite of documents that we have here is probably the most critical documents that we as a council need to understand. And I'm aware that this is going out for public exhibition. We're not adopting it today. But the amount of information that is contained in this document, and I go through when it's printed out, it's got all the fees and charges, it's got the plans, it has all of the works programs, it has things that we need to truly understand. And these are the things that are going to make such a difference within our local government area over the next 12 months. And when you start going through line by line with your fees and charges and understanding that there are, from year to year, there are things that are introduced that weren't there the year before. And when we don't have the opportunity to come together other than in a council meeting to go through this and discuss it, it makes it incredibly difficult to be able to get all of the answers. And for me, there are many, many issues of concern. I look at the cemeteries. There are questions in there. I look at where we have fees and charges to be advised. And can I just seek some clarification, particularly in relation to the animal regulations and the registration of our cats and dogs and things? All of those are to be advised. And I didn't understand. I have asked the question, but I didn't understand why, which means that nobody else probably understands why they're to be advised and not having a figure in there.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Thompson. So if the fees and charges mention PBA, it means it's a state government statutory fee that has yet to be released as yet. So usually they're released next month or June. So they will be updated and they will come back for adoption at the June meeting. But yes, we don't have those fees on hand at this stage.
Thank you. The other area of concern relates around the cemeteries. And just as a matter of interest, Taubingo has no maintenance for their cemetery or what's provided up there, because the wall is actually located within the church grounds and the church committee actually maintains all of those grounds. So there's some areas in there that you may receive some feedback on where people don't. Community transport, I don't understand how Cancoban is charged $10 for in-town services and travel, whereas Taubingo is charged $14, as is Adelong charged $14. There just seem to be the discrepancies. And going back to cemeteries, my greatest concern is, and I will actually be putting in a submission on the cemeteries. We had children as free, no charge burials. And I don't think that 0 to 3 is the only child that impacts on a family enormously. And I have asked the question, how many do we have in the 3 to 12? And there's probably 2 a year. And I think this community and that's across Snowy Valley. So I think within our community, we need to be really mindful that when somebody's going through one of the most difficult times in their life to lose a child, I don't think we should be looking at the cost recovery for that cohort within our cemetery fees and charges. I also raised a concern in relation to the burial, and I forget the exact term, but burial rights, thank you, which means that that fee and charge has gone up by almost 25%, almost $1,000. So I do have some concerns in relation to this, and it's incredibly difficult to go through it line by line at a council meeting because we already know people want to get away by 5 o'clock. So it is such an important document. So I implore everybody to read the document while it's out on public exhibition and to make submissions in relation to the fees and charges that they have genuine concerns about, and to make sure that we're showing an empathy as well as an equity. But for me, particularly, the 0 to 12-year-old burial should not be something that we as a council impose on it. It's not a cost that is imposed on council for that. It's an internal cost that we're looking at.
So Councillor Thompson, just to clarify, if someone was to put in a submission to change that charge, can I ask what happens then? Does it come back to council? It will come back.
Yes. For the June meeting.
For the June meeting, okay. Yes, I certainly will be putting in that I think under 2-year-olds should be able to access the swimming pools for free. I think being charged, a 6-month-old being charged full entries is something we can do with that.
And Madam Mayor, this is where, as I say, it is incredibly difficult for us as councillors to come together with this amount of information and these number of line items, not only in our fees and charges, but also in the works and the assets and everything else that's involved, and to try and discuss it at a council meeting without any understanding and without having been able to give staff any direction is not particularly strategically prudent.
Councillors, any other discussion about fees, charges, the ongoing budget?
I had a couple, but I've just lost my business paper at the moment because I went to the,
What is it?
I went to the attachment.
Yes.
And, is this where the GIPA came in?
Yes, the cost of the GIPA
Yeah,
is in here, yes.
yeah. I just thought, you know, I went and had a look at our,
So it's
Yeah.
289 pages.
I went to our, policy.
Yep.
And it says, council will use the following principles regarding public access information, open and transparent governance, consideration of overriding public interest in relation to access requests, proactive disclosure and dissemination of information and respect the privacy of individuals. Well, I don't think we're going to achieve that if we put them up to the price that we're putting them up to. And I don't know whether it's a great idea, given that
It's
we're
only for
supposed to be
buildings, isn't it?
transparent.
Isn't it only for properties? It's not general GIPA, it's just for the people looking at properties.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Hayes, yes, as pointed out on page 38 of the report, it's $250 for lawyers, conveyances.
What, assuming lawyers have got more money than anyone else, or are they?
We might have to talk to Councillor Inglis about
having
that.
a door knocked down by lawyers, and they fill GIPAs in. How many GIPAs are we getting? You know,
The issue is it's a lot and it's taking a lot of staff.
we don't
time,
get a report saying how many.
and they would do in the annual report. It's included in the annual report every year. But usually what's happening is they're requesting whole property files from the dawn of time that take council officers a long time to go and find, to process. So it's trying to recover only some of that cost that's involved, and we're hoping that they actually might be a bit more specific in what they're asking for as well moving forward. So it's a charge that other councils do as well. It's not like this is a first in New South Wales. This is quite a common charge across councils across New South Wales, but it's just
We
not.
have evidence of that?
Queanbeyan Coleraine charge $700, I think it was, when we did some benchmarking for the same service. So we're not at the high end. This is
Yeah.
just on the lower end. And you
Well, if
say
we're doing
cover.
benchmarking, perhaps we could include it in the report as well. Like, I know the report's big, but
So what are we
Sorry, what
actually
kind of
asking
report?
for?
Just like benchmarking on GIPA fees across other councils.
So
So,
on this
is
one,
that okay if that gets sent around to council?
Yeah,
I can.
Yeah,
do
that can, that's okay. That'd be fantastic. Thank you. Any other comments, like on to the long-term financial plan?
look, it's
The
only a
deficit?
small thing, but I didn't understand the cleaning fee. When you caravan, like a cabin at the caravan park,
The
that-
disinfectant
that-
fee.
is that in addition, or is that built into the cost, or?
Is it like Airbnb, you
That
put your
just a
cleaning fee
surprise?
on top?
Oh, I'll get the Director of Community and Corporate.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So traditionally what council's done is they've charged a booking fee for the room.
Yep.
So what we're seeking to do now is, because the cleaning costs are significantly increasing, rather than increasing the actual booking fee, they've also included a sanitation fee for the room. So that's in addition, as opposed to actually increasing the booking fee.
And we're not pricing ourselves out of the market.
No.
Can I clarify that for councillor Hayes? Councillor Hayes, a lot of accommodation places are now going along a cleaning fee on top of the accommodation because of the amount of,
Cleaning?
not only cleaning, to recoup the costs of everything else that is going up, but also now we're looking at most, OTAs, which is the, booking authorities. They're not only charging, their percentages have gone up quite considerably,
I understand.
but they're also charging both users on both sides. And unfortunately, all I can say is for someone like myself, when your insurances and your cleaning go up by over 50%, you've got to try and recoup that money somewhere. And I'm just one of a whole lot of other ones throughout Australia that it is standard now. There is an extra cleaning fee put on top of it. and we find that most of the people just accept it. It's just part and parcel of doing short-term accommodation.
I would imagine, councillor Sheldon, that the people renting your accommodation are quite different to the people renting a caravan park accommodation normally.
No, it's right the way across the board, councillor
As
Hayes.
long as they're pretty good.
I have other questions, but I'll leave them.
Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, in relation to the operational plan, on page 98 of the whole document or page 94 of the operation, in relation to infrastructure, private works and services, because when you go through the operational plan, there's an awful lot of red final figures, and that's an area of concern that I know is shared by some other councillors around the table. But in particular, the infrastructure, private works and services, I don't understand how we lose money on private works if we're actually putting our tender in appropriately. So how do we lose it? And if someone could explain what is the depreciation and impairment on external works, what are we depreciating that's external?
Through you,
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, to councillor Thompson. So yes, you are correct that private works should generate an income to council. That's the whole idea why you do private works. In relation to this cost centre, the issue is with the RMCC audit works and maintenance works. The income is understated at this stage. My understanding in discussions with staff that they have Transport for New South Wales this week and next week to try and finalise those costings. So once that's done, that will be updated for when it comes back for adoption. So I expect that number to change following those meetings. So that should be positive coming back to June.
And the depreciation on private works?
That relates to sale yards, is included in that service area.
Right, okay.
Councillor Sheldon.
Mine are in the long-term financial plans.
Me too.
Firstly, the observation that there's going to be a projected incline of 60% in grants. So there's going to have to be some rationalisation
Are
there.
you on page 9? Oh, or 244? Okay, just so people know, because I think it's you're the
All right.
consolidated income statement.
Yes.
Okay, so that's on page 244
Let me have a look here.
or page 9 of the draft long-term financial.
Page 251, actually.
251, okay. So we know.
Whilst there are many red flags throughout the whole report, there was one thing I noticed with our water fund statement. The cash or the cash equivalents. It's probably best to direct this through the general manager to the CFO. That next year we're in the black on the cash or the cash equivalents in the water fund statement, but then all of a sudden we go to a cash negative from 27, 28 on, and from my understanding, that's a no-no.
Chief Financial Officer.
For you, Madam Mayor, yes, that is correct. So we've had for next year's budget, 26-27, we've got a capital, IPP&E capital works of $3 million. That leaves us with 3.3 mil closing balance. And then for the 27-28 financial year, we've got $9.9 million capital works. So what it's essentially saying is while the opening balance for 27-28 cash balance is only 3.3 mil, but the council is actually spending more than what we have in cash and reserves. So that's the reason it's going in negative, and it's essentially a overdraft.
And I think this is really important that we take this statement to the minister involved and say, we desperately need some money. We do not have the money to do what the plan,
And just for my, you can, again, this comes out of the general fund, any of this money?
Yes, if the capital works doesn't change, or if we do not get any additional funding, then it will be coming out of general fund.
So it can be a two-pronged problem.
That would have to go through council.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I ask Chief Financial Officer on page 244, just the consolidated income statement, looking in the long term, like by 35, 36, we had a loss of $16 million for that year. Now, I'm looking in this year and next year, we've still got capital grants and contributions. Part of that, to me, this is because you cannot put down grants. Is that right? Yeah.
Correct. So we've essentially, for the capital grants and the operating grants, we've only budgeted for the grants that's confirmed.
Just confirmed, right.
And that's dropping down significantly throughout the long-term financial planning.
The grants are getting more competitive, so.
Yeah, and it also just shows just the depreciation and impairment is just hitting so hard.
Correct, yeah, as we capitalize new assets and
Yep.
projects.
Does
Thank
that
you.
include financial assistance grant and
That
roads
is,
to recovery
that's the only one
grants?
we're guaranteed.
And the
correct?
roads to recovery grants were guaranteed, aren't we?
No,
No,
So that's
3
now
years.
competitive,
I know,
Yeah,
we're not
over 3
guaranteed,
years.
I'm not guaranteed the amount.
right?
you can't put in with them.
Salia,
Could councillor Lardis say something?
course he could.
Because he put his hand up.
go ahead. I didn't speak.
Thanks.
Just in terms of the way that we're going to structure the correspondence through the committees, in terms of getting feedback as well. Obviously the aviation stuff is new. And I would say absolutely bloody ridiculous to expect somebody's going to pay $250 to land an aeroplane at night. According to this chart, I mean, if you were there practicing circuits at night,
That's a good way to make money.
very good way to
We
make money.
might get the Director of Infrastructure to speak on that. because
I'm sure the Aerodrome Committee would like the opportunity to comment as well.
Of which they're very, yeah,
Which they can.
which they
We'd
can, and we can
encourage them
take
to
that
do
to the,
during the exhibition period.
yeah, but could you speak to that cost?
Yeah, look, through you, Madam Mayor, as you now know, Councillor Larda, the aerodrome's upgraded now to be capable to do operational night flying. So we're looking at ways to try and recover some of the operating costs through fees and charges to reduce the loss that we make on the aerodrome each year. And this is just one way at this stage we're looking at maybe increasing some revenue for council. It's not a lot of money. We don't know how much uptake we get. We might get none, but we're hopefully trying to accept some flying schools who want to train pilots to fly at night to use our facility. And
That would be a one-off fee though, wouldn't, like if they were doing.
no, to be a per use fee.
Not per landing, but per.
Yeah,
night
we
fee.
want per night fee.
Per night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
per night fee.
Well, it says in here per landing.
I think. Well, that needs to be amended because it'd be a one night booking fee, $250 per night. Because there is restrictions also on the night operation. So there's only a period of time that you can operate at night that's currently approved at the aerodrome before it's not permissible. So we're not talking you can come in at midnight and start practicing flying around. You've got to operate and do that night flying within a very certain time frame. So in winter, it's between 6 and 8 p.m. when it's dark. And in summer, I think it's between 7 and 9 p.m. when it gets dark or darker. It's only 2 hours we're talking about. And then it's not allowed on weekends.
And this doesn't apply to air ambulance.
No. It's for night schools and training.
Should it say
Operators.
that they're exempt?
It
does
does,
say-
it does say. it.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there's
so
night
it's-
flying training
yes.
fees, commercial
Yeah,
flights,
emergency is exempt.
and then non-emergency.
Big sign out there yesterday saying that.
But once again, we should be charged them. I mean, because they're run by the state government, they charge us for stuff. Well, why are we exempting them?
Put it in and we
Because
can
that's
discuss
why
it
we've
in
got-
June.
That's why we've got the.
They're not a
funding.
charity.
No. What about combat?
They're exempt.
They're exempt.
We want them on our side.
Yeah, it depends who, what team they're on.
Salia?
So yeah, yep.
Which was on,
It's in the asset report.
10.
So what page?
So what page, Shane?
It's at 210 or 76, both there. They're leased out. Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that there's a license agreement in place, but there is a fee in place also with sales per head and the general license fee amount that we charge each year for them to utilise those yards.
So
Which
we're
changes.
leasing the yards out, but then we're also charging fee to use them each time.
Haven't we been through this before, but the money never actually comes back to council?
No, well, yeah, the only usage fee that we charge them is that we're meant to charge them per sale per head.
That never
And then
happens.
and that never happens. And then there's meant to be, then there's a standard license fee that we charge them per annum.
$16,684.
So that's
that's
basically
right.
the lease.
And that's just for the privilege to use it, yes, for them to have that access, which is elders.
And they pay that.
And they pay that, yeah, but they don't pay us the per head, and it could be our problem as well. We don't charge.
So-
You don't know when it goes through.
And
No.
yeah,
Anyway.
we're not, staff aren't sitting there with a counter.
And may I,
But they use it.
Maybe
as
we
a
should remind
They use
elders.
it as a transfer station.
Councillor Sheldon.
yes, may I ask the director, what's the difference between per unit and per head?
I think
In what context?
I think it's the same thing, David.
Selling fees. Well, one's $4 and one's $2.
Yeah, I'll get that clarified.
Thank you.
for you.
Okay, thank you. Shall we vote to go out of committee? And that is with Councillor Thompson and Councillor Sheldon. All those in favour? Okay, we're back in council. If anyone wants to have a final debate, comment, question?
I'll just close debate then if no one else.
I would, before she does, just encourage people to have a very, very good look through this.
Very good. Look.
Yeah, and talk to councillors and send something in, because there's some things in here that worry me.
Good. Excellent. Good advice. Councillor Thompson.
Well, Madam Mayor, extending on what Councillor Hayes has just said, I think what we need to try and really do is encourage our community when our documents are out on public exhibition to actually take the time to read them. While it's not stated within here, there's also the possibility maybe that some copies can be available at the local libraries or even down in the front of council where people used to be able to come and actually see a hard copy. But at the end of the day, we need the community to be reading these documents and providing feedback either to us as councillors or in fact writing a submission to council and express their genuine concerns. Not just raise criticism about what they're not happy with, but giving alternatives or options or raising their issues that they feel need to be looked at. So the document is going out, it says for a minimum of 28 days. It's up to the community to actually make the effort to read this and to actually provide submissions or to talk to us. So with that, I'll close debate.
Okay, councillors, all those in favour? Everyone bar councillor Sheldon. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. Moving on to 10.5, draft productivity and cost saving plan. Page 43.
Another document.
Have a mover, councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson. Thank you. Councillor Sheldon.
It's good to see this finally hit the pages. My question, it's only one question really with it. Does it line with all our other financial suite documents?
Through Madam Mayor, Councillor Sheldon, yes.
In words.
I do like the way that it also shows what we have done and the savings that have been put in place. So all the staff that have worked really hard to make that there. I know we're asking more, but thank you very much. And it's great to see it here in black and white. Councillor
Just-
Thompson.
The same as the last one, this is going out for public exhibition. It's so important that people take the time to read this. It's really difficult when it goes out for public exhibition, there are no submissions, it comes back, it's passed automatically because there are no submissions and then people complain about it. So really encourage people to read it. It's an interesting read and it explains a lot of things. So.
Any other comments?
Oh, look, I remain concerned that, reducing our road renewals,
Of which we've been so proud.
sorry?
We've been so proud of our roads.
Yeah, well, there's something we do well and something, you know, that we actually have the ability to make money on. So, you know, I wouldn't like to see any reduction in our crews and any reduction in the work that they're doing. They do good work, and they also bring in money for us. And of course, if you don't look after an asset, it will deteriorate quicker. So on Monday, we're going on the Brindabella Road, and you'll see a section of that was sealed 15 years ago. And it has had basically no maintenance for 15 years.
Mm.
Whereas the bits either side are unsealed and they need in constant need of maintenance. So if you bring your roads up to a certain standard, they will have to cost you more for depreciation, sure. They will probably cost you less to repair.
Councillor Larder.
I'd just endorse what councillor Hayes just said. If we're going to take away the capacity in that area, I think it's a big mistake, because that's the opportunity to not only economically gain things for the council through productivity with the expertise and experience we've got in that functional area, but you know, we've seen what happens at places like Wagga when you don't maintain roads. It turns into a disaster, and you'll end up spending more money in the longer term catching up. So I would absolutely say that that's not a good move, not a good step forward. We need to make sure that we're doing the utmost to maintain roads. And you know, when you look at the chain of responsibility in relation to what you just spoke about with the aged care, I mean, the same thing applies to us in relation to upkeeping roads. We need to make sure that they're safe and the best maintained that we can afford to do with the expertise we have. And any reduction in that would be not a good move.
I might get the Director of Infrastructure to speak to that.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. There's no intention to reduce crews or road crews as a result of these reductions. There's certainly plenty of work for the current road crews that we have in this program that we've got here to keep our roads up to a standard that we all know and keep those roads up to a good standard. With the roads that we've got, thankfully through grant funding over the last 5 to 6 years, over 95% of our road network is in condition 1 or 2, which is good and very good. And yes, we want to keep it in those conditions, but we're talking the vast majority of our network is in good condition. We intend to keep it that way with no reduction in crews or no reduction in quality of the work that we do as a result of these cost savings.
Councillor Wirt.
Question about the $4 million. Will that be, when you say it's deferred, will that be spent outside of those HumeLink or the roads that HumeLink's using, other asset renewals that are going on, or just be sitting?
Through you, Madam Mayor. No, it's earmarked to be spent on the roads that have been utilised by HumeLink.
Right. So if they fail to renew the road.
No, we're looking after the roads.
No, I meant if they leave it in a standard that's less.
Through you, Madam. Yeah, no, the idea of the road maintenance, we're talking about maintenance here, is that the roads are maintained. HumeLink pay us to maintain the roads to keep them in the existing condition.
Yes, but if
So
that maintenance.
The roads
contract.
should be in the same condition that they were when HumeLink started. The deferral of the capital works, which is the reconstruction of those roads, not the maintenance, is designed to happen when HumeLink leave. Because it doesn't make any sense to reconstruct or rebuild those roads while HumeLink's still trampling them.
Yeah, I'm just curious whether they'll be in a condition that's going to be worse off, and will the $4 million be able to?
That's not the intent. The intent is that those roads are kept in the same condition.
And I tried to find the $4 million in the long-term financial plan. It is there. I just couldn't really see where it was.
It's in current year.
Oh, it's okay.
So we've made the EDR adjustment.
Right, okay. Councillor Lotta.
Just in relation to those contributions by those third parties such as HumeLink, are those contributions being made publicly available?
To who?
Well, the road maintenance agreements are confidential. But we do report through the HumeLink update report, the money that was spent and where we've spent that money on what roads in those quarterly updates that you receive on HumeLink. So we give you that information, but the actual agreements themselves are confidential agreements.
Councillor Packer.
How much of what's in this financial sustainability and cost saving plan can be used in the information that we'll be needing to provide leading up to de-amalgamation? Is this going to be, do we have to repeat this, or can we use this body of work to support the, because I mean, this is for Snowy Valleys as a whole, but it's something which is going to be able to be.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Packard. Yes, so my indication is that, yes, it should be used right up to de-amalgamation and will especially help council if we need to apply for any special rate variation, which we do need to do as well, because this is something that I ask for and also look for that councils undertake this exercise.
So the new councils would be able to, if need be, very quickly apply.
Yes.
Great.
But at the same time, they can come up with their own productivity and cost saving plans.
Question,
I'm
councillor
just going
Lotta?
to ask, those confidential agreements with those third party on the roads, have councillors seen those documents? I just don't.
They were in confidential, weren't they?
They were hearing.
Yep, yep.
It was a very.
They were in confidential, weren't they?
I
Yes.
believe so, yeah.
Yep. Councillor Sheldon?
I was just going to ask, shouldn't we have gone into committee to discuss this or not?
No, we're fine. We don't have to.
I have another question.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just trying to, after councillor Hayes and Marta saying about our roads and money, within our operational plan, it's identified that it's $10 million in the red.
That's correct, but most of that's like depreciation.
So even without the depreciation, because depreciation is 8 million, so it's still 2 million. So it's not as if it is paying its own way. And when there was a Snowy Works and Services independent works unit, they used to generate an income in the private works, but as we've seen also, that's not happening. I just, I don't think anyone's talking about reducing the safety of our roads. It's just a matter of looking at, is that the level of service that we need across all our roads in every area, and it does come at a cost. It's not cost neutral.
One more
Councillor Wirth.
clarification. Just for for Duncan Mitchell.
Before he leaves.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I
whatever you
just
want.
want to wrap my head around,
Yeah,
you said that,
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I just want to make it all clarified, but you said there's a maintenance agreement, but
Yep.
if, say, the $4 million or whatever the figure is in
Capital works.
capital works isn't enough to renew those roads to the condition they were prior to the starting of HumeLink, who foots the difference of that bill?
Well, it's not the intention that they will be in a condition where we have to completely rebuild them, because we're being paid to maintain them for that duration. So if they certainly shouldn't get to a condition where we have to spend more than the money we'd already earmarked for those roads to be rebuilt, because we're actually being paid by a third party to maintain those roads in the existing condition. And that's what's happening now. So we believe that keeping the road in the condition that it is now, or was when HumeLink started, should not create any more capital works in the future for us in terms of cost when we do have to rebuild and reconstruct that road. It's a safeguard that we're putting, we've got both. So please don't forget that there was already in the money in the budget to maintain these roads. The money we're getting from third parties is on top of that. So there was already money in our budgets to do road maintenance across the network. The money that we're getting from HumeLink is on top of that. So the amount of money we have for maintenance on our roads has been increased at no cost to council. the capital works that has been shifted out to future years is based on what we know those conditions of those roads should be in 2 years' time when HumeLink finished, and the cost to then rebuild those roads.
Councillor Inglis.
Just one question. Is the cost of the work that remedial work that we've been doing being met by the payments that are being paid for by HumeLink to date? Are we on budget?
Through Madam Mayor, yes, it is. It's adequate to cover the work that we are doing and have to do on those roads to maintain them.
Councillor Hayes.
No, I seem to recall when we were debating the service level agreement concept, we thought if the weather was kind and we had a good run, we would probably do reasonably well out of it. If the weather gave us really, really challenging conditions, then that was where and so far we've been probably fortunate.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we have been fortunate, and councillors will be aware on two particular roads, Wee Jasper Road and Elliott Way, where there was issues with the maintenance of the roads that was flagged by community. We've come and fixed those roads to the condition that they were before, and that was done with the money provided by HumeLink.
Councillor Inglis has asked on a few occasions about motor vehicle policy and that sort of thing, and a lot of this stuff like roads and not everybody understands, but everybody understands motor vehicles because we nearly all got them. So yet we haven't been provided with any information regarding the fleet, what we're running it, whether there's any savings to be made.
I think this might be a question.
Yeah.
General Manager.
And well, maybe a report, because I think that's what Councillor Inglis was after.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Hayes, Council's fleet management policy was provided to Councillor Inglis. A list of Council's fleet was also provided to councillors as requested. The Councillor Inglis's question, just because it came up, was asking why we were purchasing certain vehicles, certain light fleet, etc., for certain purposes. So that information has been provided to council.
And our lease back, have we got anything on that? I think there was a line item there that showed that was in the red fairly well. I think.
What's your-
Cost of service.
Yeah.
Councillor Inglis.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen a policy. I was told it was operational.
We'll make
Still
sure
waiting.
that's resolved.
I can forward you the email again.
Okay, councillors, any other, help me with, who can close debate? Councillor
Yep.
Sheldon.
I'm happy to close.
Yeah, okay. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, statements of investments. Page 49. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sheldon. Councillor Thompson. Oh, sorry.
Turning the page.
Councillor Hayes has to be out by 5, sorry.
Does anybody want to make any comment on it?
I'd like to
Yeah.
ask about the Ampol account of $88,000, and it was remiss of me not to mention at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you for your flexibility, not going to Tumbarumba today, but we did think it was prudent to have Councillor Hardwick and myself, the 2 vehicles come rather than all of you and the staff go to Tumbarumba. So thank you for your flexibility. But if I could probably talk to the CFO about how, or the General Manager about how is the fuel crisis affecting Snowy Valleys Council?
Through you, Madam Mayor, council's usual average spend for fuel is around 80,000 a month. So at this stage, there is a slight increase, but obviously we expect this month and next month to be slightly higher. Overall, we're encouraging staff to carpool, not travel if necessary, obviously join via Teams and Zoom and things like that. So staff have been advised. There was some issues with getting like some bitumen was probably the most like the area that has, like affected our works crew the most. But in terms of access to fuel, that's still okay at this stage. Obviously, the price will go up on a month-to-month basis.
Thank
Went
you.
down today.
Councillor Sheldon.
Through the general manager to the CFO, could you please explain the 87,000 over? What it actually means? Page 50.
Page, through you, Madam Mayor, so that Commonwealth Bank, 87,934. Essentially, we've deposited, so we've got a policy in place which essentially tells us there's certain amount of funds that we need to deposit in individual financial institutions. We've gone over with CBA by 87,934.
So what happens?
Well, essentially, the term deposit's in place. It's when it is maturing, then yeah, the balance would be evened out. But we also have the operating bank account with CBA. So it's really difficult for us to then assess if you're getting a really great interest rate, then we would rather lock that in. In this situation, the payments in the operating bank account would have been paid, included at later date.
Okay.
So it's fairly movable. That'll,
It's,
yeah,
yeah,
and right.
and a lot of that is the timing issue as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And could I just ask another question to the Director of Infrastructure? The Tumut Aerodrome, which was presented so well yesterday, can you just tell us how it went? Is the project under or over budget? Is there any more? I noticed 1.88 million. Anything else to come?
Madam Mayor, the current project as it stands, it's funded through the BLURF funding, so the $12.5 million grant fund is on track to become a little bit under that $12.5 million all up. So
Congratulations.
it should, yeah, it will come in on budget.
Well done. Okay, Councillor Thompson, do you want to?
I'd like to ask just the general manager for a clarification on a comment she made a moment ago before it was closed debate. The comment that you made where staff are actually being encouraged to participate either via Zoom or online, I suppose that includes also working from home where appropriate or if possible.
We haven't gone that far, just encouraging, as I said, all the like initiatives. Yes, no. Yeah, so not this,
Yes, no,
not,
maybe.
not that bad.
Okay, but it's something that can actually be looked at down the track if needed.
Yeah, so the council offers a flexible working sort of arrangement policy, and sort of working from home is an option. And that, yes, that is something we can look at if needed.
Thank you.
Just a question about cost of fuel and works crews. How much is that going to affect the cost of just general cost of doing work out in the field, cost of garbage collection, all of those fuel costs going up?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, it does affect all of those operations of council. So the increase in the price of diesel, unfortunately, council's not like other organisations, and we can pass that on to our consumers. So we're wearing that cost at the moment. So the operational costs for garbage trucks, for roadwork services, are all having to be absorbed within our operational budgets at this point in time. The outcome of that will only be known at the end of this financial year, which will probably demonstrate the impact that this fuel crisis has had on our original budgets that we set at the beginning of the year and what we've finally landed on at the end of the financial year. So you'll probably see that in the end of financial year report, that impact. In terms of what the Mayor mentioned, the cost of bitumen went up $500 a tonne. So it went up from $375 a tonne to $875 a tonne, which means we've lost a fair bit of work through private works, people saying, no, we're just going to hold off now on doing the private work and wait and to see if prices come down. So it's impacted our private works capacity at the moment. And it's also causing an increase in cost to do that roads program. The only lucky thing for us was we've done most of our sealed program before the fuel crisis.
Gary.
Councillor
Just in relation to the fuel, is it feasible that we could have a look at what the back of house arrangements are for emergency situations like this? Because I don't think we have the bulk fuel that we once had at Snowy Works, for instance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that's correct. There's no bulk fuel storage at Tumut anymore. There is a redundant bulk fuel storage facility at Tumbarumba. So, and that was purposely kept mothballed, not dismantled or removed in the event that there is a necessity for us to store fuel. So if this crisis continues and gets much worse, it potentially can be re-energised.
The tanks are still here. Chairman.
Tanks are still there, they're still functional, they're just empty.
No, in Chairman.
I know, and I don't think they
No.
are here.
I think they were
They're gone.
removed.
Yeah.
Councillor Thompson, do you want to close?
That's it, thank you.
Right, all those in favour?
Oh, sorry. It's okay, no, councillor Sheldon, it's all good.
All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Councillor Sheldon. Okay, the Tumbarumba flood study, we may have someone pop in to this meeting.
I'll move that.
Moved by councillor Hayes, seconded by councillor Sheldon. Councillor Hayes,
So are we moving the amended one or are we moving the new code?
I might hand over to the Director of Community and Corporate to discuss this and introduce our guest.
Through you, Madam Mayor, there is an error in this report on page 57 relating to the financial and resources implications. The project manager relating to this project has included an invoice in the overall budget, which shouldn't have been included in there. So that's reflected in the actual report. So the amended figures demonstrate that the project is within budget. And those included variations are now displayed on that amendment that I've provided councillors today on that separate sheet of paper.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes,
And the original budget was how much?
The total project cost is 129,960. And council's contribution to that project is 25,992. The residual being paid by the funding body.
And what was our original budget?
The original budget before the variations were included in there were the 129,000 minus the 21,550.
Okay. And what, I suppose we'll get the answer why we needed verification of the LiDAR data.
Yeah, so with a lot of these projects, once we sign up the consultant, the hydrological consultant, they will specify the types of data that they require in order to undertake the assessment. That's not always known at the time when these grants are applied for. And so once that brief is issued, we'll generally get a data requirement, which we will then have to go out and undertake that survey. So we always create some redundancy in the budgets for that purpose. So
does that mean that we did it twice or was that someone just looking at the data, the verification?
the variation was done in-house by council surveyors, by
No,
our
it says verification.
variations.
No, verification.
Verification of LiDAR data, yeah. So I'll get Erin to explain that in a
Okay,
minute.
got it.
So I'll just introduce Erin Askew. Erin Askew is from WMA Water in Sydney, who's been retained to undertake this project on behalf of council. So
Welcome.
Hi everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
I might just address that question first. So the survey works related to capturing cross sections and structure, culvert and bridge details for feeding into the model. So the LiDAR data, which is, high resolution topographic information that we get often from the state government, doesn't penetrate through water. So in order to appropriately represent the river channels, we need to get actual field survey. And also, obviously, it doesn't include information on culvert structures and things like that. So I imagine that's what the variation relates to. Is that correct, Nick?
correct.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I've just got like 5 or 6 slides just to quickly sort of run through this project and give the councillors a bit of an understanding of the work that we've been doing and what we need today. I'll just share my presentation. Okay. All right, can everybody see that one?
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, so I spoke with you all a few months back in relation to the Tumut flood study, because we've also been doing that study for council. So some of the information may be familiar to you because they're undertaken under the same process, but I'll just still run through it so it's all, you know, there for clarity and consistency. So these studies, as Nick just sort of mentioned, they're funded through the state government through the flood risk management process, and it is guided by the flood risk management manual. This little diagram here gives an indication of the processes that councils go through, you know, a data collection, a flood study, which defines a flood behaviour. A flood risk management study would be the next stage. So that's a separate study that council would need to apply for additional funding to move forward with. And it's the study where strategies to reduce the flood risk are identified. So the study that we're looking at the moment is just about defining the flood behaviour, producing mapping of where the water would move. The key reasons that council follows this process is that the state government provides technical and financial support for councils to meet their floodplain management obligations. And as Nick mentioned, the funding ratios are quite generous, so it helps councils to undertake these studies. The second aspect is that under section 7.3 of the Local Government Act, liability is provided if studies are carried out in accordance with the flood-prone land policy, which this guidance document incorporates, and that information is then provided to the community in good faith. It provides legal protection for councillors and council staff. So why is council doing this study? So there hasn't ever been a study of this nature. So there's been some small assessments for individual developments, such as a caravan park and the quarry, but no study through this flood risk management process has ever been done for Tumbarumba. I understand that there's some development pressure also within Tumbarumba, and having this information allows for informed planning decisions to be made. There was also some recent flooding, or not so recent now, but you know, the 2010, 2012, 2022 events, you know, caused consequences within the community. So this information helps to manage that. What will this study provide to council? So as I mentioned, an understanding of current and potential future flood risk. It helps to increase flood awareness in the community, allows for appropriate development within the floodplain because we have the flood information now to consider that. It gives an understanding of if there's large scale developments, what the consequences of that might be for flooding. It informs emergency management activities. And also this study can be used as a basis for that future flood risk management study in order to develop strategies to reduce flood risk for the community. So the study area that we've covered, it's a 31 square kilometre study area. It's about a 10-kilometre stretch of Tumbarumba Creek. The model also incorporates Pound Creek and Sheep Station Creek. And the main focus is really the township of Tumbarumba. The total catchment area is 162 square kilometres, just for scale reference there. There's two types of flood mechanisms that occur in Tumbarumba, what we call mainstream flooding. So that's in the creek systems. Water will, you know, travel down the creek and then spill out of the creek into an area. And the other type of flooding that we look at within these models is overland flow. And essentially that's rainfall that moves through the catchment down towards the creek, which can sometimes cause its own set of issues. The reason I mentioned that is because these are two example mapping outputs from the study. This one on the left is the 1% or 100-year flood extent at Tumbarumba. So you can see the dark blue section. This is the main creek, Tumbarumba Creek, moving through town, the footy fields here. And there, this shallow, lighter blue inundation, this is the overland flow. So this is, as it rains on top of the hill, the water moves down. This is really quite shallow. This light blue is, you know, 50 to 100 millimeters deep. But it's still important to understand that and, you know, consider that in development and so forth. There's a range of outputs that we produce, but it's not just this mapping of flood depths, but we also can use the metrics that we produce to give us an indication of how hazardous the water can be. So this one on the left is what we call hydraulic hazard. It's a metric of how fast and deep the water is moving, and that helps to guide development as well. The other key output is what we call a flood planning area. Now, it's the extent to which flood-related development controls apply. And so it's a snapshot there on the left. So there's a blue area, on the right, there's a blue area that we call the mainstream flooding. So it has the traditional controls that already exist within council's DCP. The yellow areas are the ones that are the lots that are potentially impacted by overland flooding. So council doesn't currently have any separate controls for overland flooding, but that's something that can be developed in the next flood risk management study. So it's good to be aware of it out of this study, but at the moment, nothing, there's no controls that apply to those lots. So what we're asking today is for the councillors to endorse the study to go on public exhibition. It's been through a long process with a number of reviews from council and the state government through the process. So the study will be available for comment with the community. Myself will be coming down in a couple of weeks to hold a drop-in session and allow the community to pick my brain and ask me some questions about the study. We'll also have some, diagrammatic materials to help inform the community about the study. So the types of tools that we'll be using is that information session, some posters and things. There'll also be some media release through council socials and things like that to advertise the sessions. Following that, we gather the feedback, make any amendments to the report that we need, and then it'll come back to you guys for adoption, hopefully. That's it from me.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you very much. And thank you for your work in this. Your flood study actually makes a big difference to people's home insurance. Is that correct? Is that correlation?
As in increase of insurance? Is that
no? Well, depending where you live in Tumbarumba.
Yeah. If you flood studies definitely can be used to help build an argument with an insurance company to say my house is not subject to flood risk.
Yeah, right.
There's a belief in the community, though, that these studies directly impact on increases in insurance. There's actually no direct link because insurance companies have their own people like me to make their own studies, and they assess their own risk and they price their own risk, and their models are often far less detailed than what we produce. And so it's a good tool for council to be able to support the community for the places that are not subject to flood risk, to be able to say, look, this, state government funded study has shown my house is not subject to flood risk.
Thanks, Erin. Any questions?
Question for Nick probably is, if there's any areas that are identified as flood prone land, will the LEP be changed to limit development in those areas?
So essentially what happens is those areas that are identified for as a flood control lot in the interim floodplain area, essentially the controls under clause 5.21 in the LEP would apply. So council would have to undertake an assessment as to what impact that flooding would have on any potential development moving forward. Generally, and Erin can probably comment on this further, the high risk areas where you're in like riverine flooding and that sort of stuff, they're the general areas that we try and prevent people from building in. But there's some other areas that have been identified, which is, it's very minor overland flow. Look, you're looking at probably 10 centimeters and that sort of thing in some of those areas, which, we can definitely work with proponents in supporting development in those areas.
Like we did with the airport.
Yeah, well, I'll leave that to Duncan, but the aerodrome at that point in time, the flood study wasn't even approved. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any other questions for Erin?
Yeah, I just had a
Councillor.
question about the climate change percentages of increase in rainfall intensity. It says here that at 14 to 27% increase in rainfall intensity by 2050, and also a 41% increase, or up to a 41% increase by 2100 in rainfall intensity. In terms of that projected rainfall intensity increase, how does those increases affect the 1% adverse event and the likelihood of that becoming a 0.5? Where are those percentages, and how would that then relate back to how we plan and approve building
Okay.
approvals? That would actually be for Nick, but I'll ask that first question
Yeah.
in terms of the rate density increase.
Okay, so those percentages that you're referring to, so there's sort of two parts to this, are they're straight directly from Australian Rainfall and Runoff version 4.2, which was released in 2024, late in 2024. And it was based on the current guidance of international organisations in relation to climate change. They've been included in the report to provide that information because those percentages should be investigated and applied in the next stage, because the current guidance for these types of studies, so through the flood risk management process, requires us to use a different approach. So the approach that we've applied in this study to try to understand the impacts of climate change, comparing the 1% to a 0.5 and a 0.2% AEP. So that's a 200 and a 500-year event. So there's some mapping of that in the study. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it'll be a figure that's called climate change, and there'll be a discussion probably in that same section where you've got those percentages. So yes, it does increase the flood levels, and that's something that council should consider in the next flood risk management study, whether it's appropriate to adopt a future climate scenario for floor level controls, for example. But that's not something that's being done as part of this study. We've just assessed the sensitivity of the 1% flood levels to the old methodology. Does that answer your question?
Just a follow-up question. In terms of, just to put it in perspective of those increases, are you talking, in 2100, a 1% flood event is going to be like a 1 in 200 or a 0.5% flood event?
Can
how that
I
works?
take the question on notice? So there is a tool
Sure.
where I can give you that exact answer, but can I do it and come back? Nick can feed it. Is that okay to take that question on notice?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that is what
Thank
happens.
you.
It becomes a different event.
Yeah.
Okay, councillors, any other questions for Erin?
Well, I guess my follow-up question is to Nick, in terms of building approvals and planning. If that forward projection of those, these 1% events are going to become more likely, or they're going to be increasing intensity, does that affect how we approve DAs going forward in terms of those?
So essentially the 1 in 100 year events, where that mapping demonstrates, so there's a graph in the actual report which demonstrates the high risk areas. Those high risk areas obviously impact on what we can approve on those sites. But as I mentioned before, depending on the level of intensity and depending on the depth and the flow of those areas, some of those areas are easily able to be developed. It's just that means that council takes a greater focus on the LEP in terms of clause 5.21, where there's actually flooding considerations that we must work through in order to approve those developments.
Okay. Thank you, Erin. We really appreciate your time,
No worries.
and we look forward to seeing you down for the drop-in sessions. Thank you.
Thanks very much. See ya. Bye.
Okay, councillors, so we have that draft Tumbarumba flood study. We've got 3 recommendations there. Moved by councillor Larter, seconded by councillor Sheldon. Do I have any?
Councillor Hayes, we can
Oh, it was already moved. Okay, sorry, councillor Hayes and councillor Sheldon.
No.
All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 11.2 asset management plans for adoption. So there's 3 recommendations there, noting that the 3 submissions were received. And to write and thank those people for that. Do I have a mover? Councillor Sheldon, seconded by Councillor Larder. Councillor Sheldon?
No.
I have a question.
Yes?
Just in relation to the facility down at Jarrah Oval, you can see that it's still set up almost as a gym in there, the old amenities block. I'm assuming that the Bulls have actually said that they're not using that anymore as a gymnasium or just a little
Yeah.
concern that I had
Through
that.
you, Madam Mayor, yeah, look, we're going to talk to the Bulls about that. It's been sort of occupied
Mm,
by them.
mm.
So, yeah, we'll have to have that discussion with them about it because they're not meant to be in there.
Right. Okay. And the other query was the playground for disposal at Batlow, the Bicentennial Park. None of that equipment is usable anywhere?
No.
No?
No.
And has the community been advised, because you know what happens when you tell them that we're getting rid of a playground?
We'll have to do consultation on that to make sure that everyone's across that.
Thank you. Those were my questions.
Likewise with the saliates that they use those during sales, and we had a big sale the other day, as you're aware. Also the electricity's needed. They need the electricity there for that, so
Yep.
it might be worth talking to them. They might take it over for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it looks like we're going through all one.
When I was reading this, I was very aware of the Tumut, our beautiful iconic Tumut Bridge. And that we're continually trying to get working with the bridge man, Nelson McIntosh. He's down at Yakandanda. And I think Councillor Packard and Councillor Wirtz are very passionate in trying to find a way to get that reopened as a cycle walking bridge. And but yeah, we need a plan and we need costings so that we can work towards getting some funding. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we definitely need a plan in place and a design before we can even figure out where we get funding for the, I guess you'd say the fixing of the bridge or developing it into a walkway or cycling path.
So can I just ask the Director of Infrastructure, if we're going down this and trying to get the money probably from philanthropy or grants, is that okay? Like, what does council need? We'd hate to be going to all this work to be said, no, you're not allowed to go there.
No, well, it's identified in the Bridges and Culverts Asset Management Plan, this particular bridge, but it's identified in there as in a poor condition, condition 5, but it's unfunded at the moment. So it's just in the unfunded list at the moment. So nothing happens until such time.
But it does identify it as seeking funding. It specifies
Yes.
HumeLink, unfortunately, but should it be probably just more general?
General, yeah.
Seeking, external funding to, whether that can be amended at this stage. But
That's correct. At the time we wrote that, we did have it in as one of the legacy projects with HumeLink. So that was just a hangover from that. But yeah, so it's in the unfunded list. There's no intent, we can't afford to get rid of it ourselves because the cost of actually demolishing it is significant.
we carry that 550,000 as a liability on our balance sheet.
Yes.
Sitting there. So if we can come up for a use with it that costs less than that, it will be a positive to our balance sheet.
Yes, it should be. Just the depreciation cost then of any renewal.
And it's okay if we come up with our plan and costing with this expert bridge person?
Well, yeah, we would like to see it. Yeah.
We'll let you see.
Yeah.
We'll send it to you in orange.
Councillor Sheldon's
would
about to
like
have a
to see
kick.
it.
I know, sometimes. Now, Councillor Sheldon, what would you like to say?
Well, a little bit of blue light thinking. If people look around, there are ways now that they're making walk tracks and bike tracks that are also solar farms. And you could probably open up for a
Don't think the
grant for
bridge-
that.
We're open to all possibilities.
Well, it's one way of doing something a little bit different, a little blue light thinking, which would be something new for SPC.
Charge your e-bike up.
Oh, the CUC opened yesterday. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thompson.
Just in relation to it being considered as a level 5, I thought that there was a structural review done on it that actually said that the structure itself was, the pylons and everything were okay. So that it's about the development of the top part of it. I thought that the
Maybe we could find out.
original bridge report man came back and said that it wasn't that bad.
We put it in condition 5 because it can't be used.
Because there's no.
It's not a road.
Yeah, but I
So-
get that it's
so
not a road.
It can't be used safely by anyone, so that's why it's in condition 5
I
as an
think he's,
asset.
the bridge, was it Nelson, I can't remember his last.
Nelson, yep,
Nelmac.
Nelmac, that's his name.
I've got a photo,
Nelson
an
Mac.
original photo of the
Nelson
original
McIntosh.
bridge.
Nelmac. He was saying it would cost, what, a few $100,000?
Yeah, I think he
To do
came
it.
back to you at about
Yeah, he said a couple of
a
100,000.
couple of 100,000.
Right.
And I said, that's great, but
Which is
we,
a lot less than 550,000.
yeah,
if
but I
those
do
figures are
understand how
correct.
council works. We've got to show exactly how.
And there's certain funding streams from, New South Wales government.
Cycle path.
Yes, for,
But it's not in our tracks and trails thing yet.
right.
But
But there is
we need a
funding
plan.
it right now, I think not for exactly this project, but there is funding available, for things like this and infrastructure.
Once we're shovel ready.
It would be best to have a concept design and design that's approved by council
Yes.
to go forward for funding, yes, as opposed to just
It's
having
council's
nothing at this
asset.
point in time. It's
So-
always good to have a nice artist impression and a concept of what your vision is, and you've got a better chance.
So do we
Yeah,
have
to AI.
first,
Yeah.
like in terms of that concept design and do we have money to get that design in place, or are we going to receive that from outside?
Not at this,
Council.
not at this stage.
Let's see what Nelmac comes up with.
Right, but he wants to do a design and a concept. He would want to get paid to do that design and concept.
He's a very generous man.
Okay, well, great. That's even better.
And he's got a love of old bridges. He's had a very successful career with old bridges. So at this stage, we haven't talked money.
Rightio, no, that's good.
Could we talk the Tumbarumba Arch Bridge, which needs to be refurbished, particularly before Tumberfest next year? And it's saying we don't have enough funds. However, should that for
That's
Page-
in here as well.
page 594?
Oh, sorry, I'm on the next one. Oh, ready to go.
No,
Yeah, 594. And I'm just concerned that, I know there's not enough funds, but I'd be more concerned if suddenly we're watching the duck race and the ducks got squashed.
with people on top
Yeah,
of it.
through you, Madam Mayor, the cost estimates have come back to put the bridge back effectively as was, but without the gradient.
Yes,
Is a lot more expensive than what we initially thought.
yes.
I would suggest we've got to revisit the design of that bridge to make it more simple. And that's going back to the engineers with a modified concept on design and a budget to say you need to design this within this budget. And look, I'd suggest, having now looked at a few arch bridges in our park, that Pioneer Park has some arch bridges in them that would be more than adequate for this use, that could be replicated there. And those bridges are nowhere near $300,000 that were put in Pioneer Park in the last 4 years.
But you've only got 40,000 to do that.
That's this year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Right.
next year, in next year's budget, we've
Mm.
put in more money.
Okay, I only got as far as that. Sorry, councillor Lotter.
It might be worthwhile touching base with somebody at Defence about whether some partnership can be forged into doing some of these smaller bridges. I know that in past years, like at Goobragandra, the engineers on the Army Reserve have come in and built those swing bridges, for instance.
We also put the bridge across just after Chaffey's Bridge, the next one around's an army bridge.
I think this needs to be a bit more decorative because it's a feature bridge.
I just think we need to be aware that 500 people can be standing on it at one time and we want it to be safe, no matter what.
I'm sure the Army can build a safe bridge.
Yeah, true.
Roll tank across.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, any more? Councillor Sheldon, do you want to
No,
close
no.
debate?
Yep.
All those in favour? Okay, now 11.3 leasing transaction report, page 81. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Again, another very comprehensive report, a bit hard to read at times. The question that I actually have, sorry,
Visually or grammatically?
There was a lot in
Oh.
it.
very small print and very hard to read, and also some information that doesn't
Makes sense.
always
Yeah.
make sense.
Okay.
So can I just
Not like
seek
correct.
clarification? One of the things that confuses me is when it says, oh, I'll wait there.
It read better last time.
The last column, which is terms of lease or remarks,
It's a
And it-
councillor Larter.
We just, yeah, okay.
that it says, lease renewal issued, but then it comes down here and it says council responsible for lease preparation and costs. Then you get to other ones where new lease and the council is not responsible for costs. And then you have, and I'll use the example of the Adlong Services and Citizens Club, which I don't quite understand. and It is really hard to read. New lease signed as per regulated heads of agreement. Adlong Services were responsible for solicitors' fees that were paid by council. Does that mean that council paid the fees and Adlong S&C had to pay it back, or that they would? I don't understand that. So there's a lot of confusion. If someone could explain why sometimes council pays for the lease to be drawn up, why sometimes the other organisation is responsible, and why sometimes there's no need for any legal. I don't get it.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Look, in some instances, generally, council's position is that each party pays for its costs, legal costs to draw up the lease. So it's a shared cost arrangement generally. What happens from time to time is that not-for-profits and organisations like that come back and say they can't afford the legal fees for the lease. So council carries those costs to get the lease done and signed over the line. So from time to time, for not-for-profits, we will pay all of the lease fees, legal fees for the leases. In other instances, depending on how commercial the lease is, the other side will pay full costs for the preparation of lease fees. And then for the Adlong Services Club, I'll have to check, but I believe that again was a shared cost arrangement. They paid for their fees, we paid for our fees.
Then New South Wales Health Pathology, council responsible for the lease preparation costs. And yet, is that within Roth's Corner?
Yes.
Yes.
So why is council paying for a lease that New South Wales Health is leasing?
Well, that's not correct. New South Wales Health are paying their share of the lease costs for that lease of that small space within Roth's Corner.
It's not what
Council
it
will pay for
says.
its fees. Yeah, I know, it's not correct.
So, yeah,
It's shared cost arrangement for that lease preparation, and New South Wales Health do pay.
right, okay.
And councillors, any other comments or clarifications, questions? Councillor Thompson, do you want to close?
No, I've asked my questions, thank
All
you.
those in favour? Thank you for the report. Unanimous. Okay, so on to the minutes of committee meetings. 12.1 minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee on the 18th of March. I believe that both Councillor Sheldon and Councillor Packard were in attendance. Can I have a mover?
Yeah.
Councillor Packard, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Packard.
No, I don't, there was one thing coming out and I can't remember what it was. It wasn't important.
Although the age health got raised,
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, good.
We did
Good.
flag that one.
they're going to look into it.
Yeah, great. Okay, all those in favour?
I have to ask a question.
Yes, of course.
A bit hard to follow the meaning of the minutes. We haven't seen the primary material, but leaving that aside, I've a question for you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Packard. What's the current status of the proposed audit on the motor vehicle?
So my understanding is that that's part of, I probably have to go back to the general manager for that. That's part of a program for the internal.
Internal.
So there was a schedule set down which we, as council, approved for him, and that's part of that. I think it's in the next financial year.
Just completed fraud and corruption.
Yeah, they've got a schedule that they work through all different.
Yeah, I just wondered where they're up to. That's
Yes, certainly.
the purpose of the question. Because it had been mentioned at earlier meetings.
And councillors, if you'd like an experience to go along and just be a observer, you're very welcome to go to the Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Lata enjoys them. Okay, any more discussion? Yep. All those in favour? Thank you. 12.2 minutes of the First Nation Liaison Committee, Tumid on the 18th of February.
I'll move those, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Thompson, Councillor Sheldon, Councillor Thompson.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to point out that point 2, there was so much discussion and so much thought went into the actual naming, understanding now that we have a northern and a southern end committee. So we actually have 2 committees. And one of the members of the committee had actually done a lot of research into the naming of it. And while it's not stated within the recommendation itself, apart from the name at the top, it will have the explanation of why that name's been chosen. And what it means is that Narembang means country, the land or mother country. Billa is about the river, and Koori relates specifically to the Indigenous people of New South Wales only. Koori is not a word that is used in any other state other than New South Wales. And so they believe that those 3 words actually describes very clearly what this committee means to them in this region. And so I think that the person who came up with that had put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I think it's really significant that we acknowledge that, and we will print underneath it what it specifies.
So you're saying that the First Nations Liaison Committee should now be called the Narembang Billa Koori Liaison Committee?
Yes,
That's the recommendation.
that's the recommendation as decided by members of the committee itself.
Thank you. I'd just like to find out if there's a way, it's not our responsibility, but it is within Snowy Valleys, it's that Banksia Avenue and Hudson Street parks, they need help. And
They do. Unfortunately, it does come under
housing.
and it has been redone numerous times and it has been destroyed numerous times. So there's a whole, that's, dare I say, one of the reasons I was asking if there was any part of the playground up in Batlow that was
That could
usable.
be transferred.
It is something we need to be looking at, but it's not necessarily the responsibility of council. And if we were flushed with funds, I could understand that we could do something, but you know, maybe we can advocate more on behalf of that community with Department of Housing instead of trying to do it ourselves.
And other sources of funding that may be around. Okay, all those in favour? Unanimous. And now 12.3, the last one, minutes of the Canberra Regional Joint Organisation on the 6th of March. From now on, all minutes will be put to the council so you can see what's being discussed there. Moved by Councillor Sheldon, seconded by Councillor Lata. Any comment from you?
Nope.
No. Put that to the councillors, all those in favour? Unanimous?
Madam Mayor, can I just, because none of these committee meetings actually have lots of pages to it, is it possible to get the minutes actually printed in the business paper instead of just having them as an attachment? Because it's sometimes really difficult to, and I know that
We can talk about that after.
Yeah.
Because I know Councillor Hayes needs to go. Councillors, thank you very much for the meeting. Once again, farewell and good luck to Director of Infrastructure, Duncan Mitchell. And we'll see you all in May.